Hey guys, it's Alex the Real Mr. Robinson, and welcome to my chronological recap of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we are at part 14, talking about the ending to Phase 2, which is Ant-Man. Out of all the MCU films announced at the time, this was the one that I honestly was the most nervous about, because long before this movie came out, Edgar Wright was supposed to do it, and there was just so many delays up until, like, a year before this movie was supposed to come out. Edgar Wright just ultimately left due to creative differences. And when I originally saw this movie in the theaters, I just thought, yeah, it's fun. But there was something at the back of my head that kept saying, this might have been so much better if Edgar Wright had made it. But you know what? 4 years have passed. The last time I saw this movie before this review was last year for Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I don't think it's that bad. Now that all the Edgar Wright stuff is out there, we all know it, it's old news. Watching this movie as is, it's very enjoyable. It definitely feels like a filler film and isn't as epic as Age of Ultron, which makes you really wonder why this was the big ending to Phase 2 than Age of Ultron was. But I will say this, one thing that Ant-Man does have over Age of Ultron is heart, and a lot of that has to do with the theme of the movie involving a father trying to do right by their kid. And with Scott Lang in this movie, played by Paul Rudd, that's his ultimate goal. He's a character who starts off getting out of prison as a petty thief, and he wants to try to go down a good path. He wants to reconnect with his daughter, and with Hank Pym bringing him into the mold to become the new Ant-Man, that's his opportunity to do what he does best, but while also going down the right path. Because the whole plot of this movie works as a heist film, where Hank Pym wants to try to steal this suit, and he's trying to steal it from his protege, Darren Cross, who's pretty much going to sell it for the military. And given the events that happened in The Winter Soldier, we know that sometimes the government and military can't be trusted. And throughout this movie, Hank Pym himself is having a rocky relationship with his daughter, Hope Van Dyne, played by Evangeline Lilly. Because the deal with Hope is that she's upset at Hank for not being honest about how her mother, Janet, died. She actually has more of the chops to get into the Ant-Man suit than Scott Lang does, because she's a better fighter, she knows the inside and outs to the business, so she would be ideal. And the whole reason Hank doesn't want to put Hope in the Ant-Man suit is because he doesn't want to lose her the same way that he lost Janet, who was the original Wasp. And even though Scott himself does have a lot to lose if he gets killed in the process, he's worth losing to Hank over Hope. And with that said, it does make Hope more of the side character, not so much a love interest, but she ultimately doesn't have a lot to do in this movie. Much like with Guardians of the Galaxy, this movie is more of a comedy, and I won't say I laughed a lot like I did in Guardians, but I chuckled consistently. There are a lot of cute moments throughout this movie. Some of them are very amusing, and they get really creative with the shrinking technology. It's like if you crossed Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with a heist film, where you just get so many imaginative scenarios whenever Scott's shrunken down to ant size. Like I said, it's consistently chuckle-worthy, and some of the supporting characters are really good as well, like Michael Peña as Luis, Scott's best friend. The two actors have really good chemistry with each other, and there's even some good chemistry between Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, and Evangeline Lilly, so it's a very charming movie overall. The one big thing that I ultimately don't like is the villain. Surprise, surprise. Corey Stoll plays the villain of the movie, Darren Cross, and I just don't think he's that interesting. He's mainly a businessman, sort of like Justin Hammer or Aldrich Killian, who got screwed over by his mentor Hank Pym because Hank just didn't trust him with the Ant-Man suit or the Pym particles. And he basically creates this Yellow Jacket suit to sell off to the new members of Hydra, whichever members that the Avengers didn't take care of. And it's just not that interesting. If there's any weak point to this movie, it is the villain. But overall, I think this is pretty enjoyable. It's very lighthearted, it's fun, it has some very imaginative moments with the shrinking tech, it's chuckle-worthy throughout, the characters are good, and that ultimately means that it's good but not great. It's definitely not one of the most memorable MCU films, but it does its job well. And I think the reason some people prefer this movie over Age of Ultron is just because this movie is a lot more fun. And unlike Age of Ultron, Ant-Man didn't have a phenomenal first film that it had to live up to. It was the first Ant-Man movie, so for what it is, it's pretty good. As for the Stan Lee cameo, this takes place during one of Luis's monologues or recaps of stories, and Stan Lee pretty much plays a bartender talking to one of Luis's friends who's talking to a guerrilla journalist, and Luis's friend pretty much tells the bartender that the girl he's talking to is crazy, stupid, fine, and then Stan Lee confirms it by saying, yeah, crazy, stupid, fine. And I gotta say, like, the Stan Lee cameo is what it is. I was actually very surprised at this entire scene when watching this movie for the first time, because the journalist in question is played by Anna Akana, who's a big YouTuber that I first discovered in college. So when she popped up in this movie, I'm like, wait a minute, I know her. I mean, I don't know her personally, but I have seen a handful of her videos, and I liked what she's done. Now, as for the two stingers, the first one is pretty much Hank Pym developing a wasp suit for Hope, and Hope just looks at it and says, about damn time. And in my mind, I'm just thinking that as well, because I've been looking forward to seeing the Wasp in the MCU for quite a while, but we'd have to wait 3 more years after this movie to officially see her in action. And then the end credit scene is not much. It's just a scene taken from Captain America Civil War between Bucky, Steve, and Sam Wilson. And it's just pretty much showing us how Ant-Man gets involved in Captain America Civil War. Any stinger that's from another movie and not filmed for whatever movie that stinger is playing in is worth watching on the first viewing, but after you actually see the movie that the stinger is taken from, it's just not worth sticking around. So this one's just kind of eh. So there you go, that's my recap for 2015's Ant-Man. Next up, we're gonna kick things off with Phase 3. We already talked about Captain Marvel and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but now we're officially in Phase 3, and next time we're gonna talk about Doctor Strange. Wait, what? Yeah, I bet some of you guys were thinking I was going to talk about Captain America Civil War next, because that's logically the next one in chronological order, but I have my reasons why I'm going to do Doctor Strange next. You'll have to wait until the video to find out those reasons, but yeah, I'll talk about it in that video. So until then, I want to hear what you guys think about the original Ant-Man. What were your original reactions when you saw it, if you've seen it, compared to now? Did you like this movie back then, or did you not like it? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and of course leave a comment. Don't forget to support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until next time, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.